All right, so for 11 months, we have been seeing nonstop Russia-Trump collusion hysteria coming from the black helicopter, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, all who want to destroy Trump, especially in the media like Rachel Maddow and her friends over at NBC and CNN. They are completely unhinged, and they are deranged, and so are the Democrats. And while some on the left continue to peddle this conspiracy, it is now kind of becoming so ridiculous that even Democrats are saying, uh-oh, Georgia 6, enough is enough. Let's take a look.
I think Robert Costa is right. The fact that we have spent so much time talking about Russia has been a distraction from what should be the clear contrast between Democrats and the Trump agenda.
People in Ohio, Don, aren't really talking about Russia or Michael Flynn or Putin or anything else. They're worried about paying the bills, what's happening with our pension, how much does it cost to send a kid to school, what's our energy bill, like real bread and butter stuff. And when we're talking about Trump so much, we're not talking about them.
All right, for those on the left who are still holding out hope and praying upon prayer on their knees that they will somehow be proven right about Trump-Russia collusion, well, they should take a look at this exchange between Congressman Trey Gowdy and former Obama DHS Secretary Jay Johnson from yesterday, because it's not going to help their optimism. Take a look.
You have seen no evidence that the Russians were successful at changing voter tallies or voter totals.
Correct.
At the time you separated from service in January of 2017, had you seen any evidence that Donald Trump or any member of his campaign colluded, conspired, or coordinated with the Russians?
Not beyond what has been out there open source, and not beyond anything that I'm sure this committee has already seen and heard before directly from the intelligence community.
All right, now Johnson, he's just the latest now in a long list of former Obama officials to say the exact same thing, that they have not seen any evidence whatsoever of Trump-Russia collusion. And by the way, vote tallies were not changed in the November election. Oh, and by the way, Johnson also testified that the DNC, they rejected help from the DHS after it was allegedly hacked last summer. Now, why would they do that? Remember, the DNC also blocked the FBI from having access to their servers. Maybe the Destroy Trump media, maybe they should start asking questions. What was it they didn't want the FBI and the DHS to see? And then earlier today, President Trump on Twitter, he said that he does not have any tapes of James Comey. Now, I got to tell you, the media will spin it otherwise. This was a brilliant and important move by the president. He knows that in the world of this deep state, and it's true, anybody can be surveilled. We have talked about that a lot. And by saying what he said, the president put doubt in James Comey's mind, and more importantly, kept Comey honest. Because we now know that Comey is nothing more than an angry and disgruntled employee who actually admitted he leaked to get a special counsel. And by the way, and speaking of the special counsel, it is time to focus on Robert Mueller. He must recuse himself. And the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, he must recuse himself. Remember, Mueller was hired to investigate the possible Russia collusion with the Trump campaign, but then he made it about obstruction because there was no evidence on that. And now he's focusing on finances. I call it mission creep, investigative creep. And then we have to ask the obvious question. Is Mueller carrying out some political witch hunt for his BFF, James Comey? We've been explaining for weeks now, Mueller has massive conflicts of interest. And by the way, the same goes for Rosenstein. He's the guy who recommended to the president James Comey be fired, and then appointed Mueller to serve as a special counsel, giving him free range to engage in investigation mission creep. Now, both Mueller and Rosenstein need to recuse themselves, resign, get out of the way. Guess what? We already know the answer about Trump-Russia collusion. And also, we can't forget about Loretta Lynch. Why aren't they investigating her? Or Hillary Clinton? If Washington, if the Department of Justice, if in fact the FBI, if they care even a little bit about real, actual criminal activity, then both parties now should call for an investigation into the former Attorney General who influenced James Comey's investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server scandal. By the way, remember the tarmac meeting? Remember, it's not an investigation, it's an issue, whatever she called it. And by the way, they should do an extensive investigation into the Uranium One deal, 20% of our foundational material, for nuclear weapons. Hillary Clinton signs a waiver. It goes to Vladimir Putin. Her foundation gets millions of dollars kicked back. Now, President Trump is also weighing in on Robert Mueller. He spoke with Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhardt earlier tonight. By the way, the full interview will air tomorrow morning. But here's what he told Ainsley about the Russia investigation. Let's take a look.
Robert Mueller, do you think he should recuse himself from this? Because he is good friends with James Comey. He's hired some attorneys that were part of Hillary Clinton's foundation, have given money to President Obama and Hillary Clinton's campaign. Should he recuse himself?
Well, he's very, very good friends with Comey, which is very bothersome. But he's also, we're going to have to see. I mean, we're going to have to see in terms, look, there has been no obstruction. There has been no collusion. There has been leaking by Comey, but there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that. So we'll have to see. I can say that the people that have been hired are all Hillary Clinton supporters.
All right, so now that the hysteria and the hyperventilation about Trump-Russia collusion is now dying down, okay, now it's time to refocus, and that's on the president, his campaign promises, his agenda to help those Americans that are suffering. Now, the president also reacted to Senate Republicans releasing their health care bill in his interview with Ainsley. Let's take a look.
You have the White House, you have the House, Republicans have the House and the Senate, but you have these senators that are not on board.
Well, there are also 4 good guys and they're 4 friends of mine, and I think that they'll probably get there. We'll have to see. You know, health care is a very difficult situation. If you look, the Clintons tried to get it, and after years and years they couldn't do it. Obamacare was murder for them to get. And now it's failed. It's virtually out of business. Obamacare is a disaster, and we're trying to do something in a very short period of time.
Now, Ainsley also got a chance to speak with the First Lady, Melania Trump, and here's what she had to say about now moving into the White House.
Congratulations, you moved into the White House. How is it?
We are enjoying it very much.
How about Barron with school? Is he settled?
He loves it, yeah.
He does?
All settled. He loves it here.
Good. Are you missing New York?
Not really. I'm so busy and we're doing so many great stuff, so it's a really special place.
All right, so despite all these distractions from the left, the president, he's laid out a bold, aggressive agenda for the country. Now, we're putting it up on the side of the screen. Now, these are the things that you, the American people, voted for, that the media and, of course, the deep state doesn't want to see accomplished. Tonight, it's time for Republicans in Congress to get back to work. And here's what needs to be done if Republicans want to be successful and earn your vote in 2018. 1, they've got to continue work towards passing, albeit an imperfect plan, to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's got to get done. It's a good first start. Now, also, I place the blame on this squarely on the shoulders. There are 100 liberal Republicans in the House, and there are weak senators. They never, ever intended to really repeal and replace Obamacare the right way. But putting that aside, they still need to get this deal done, and like the president said, there will be room for negotiation and improvement down the road. Number 2, it's so important that the men and women, the forgotten men and women of this election, who won this election for the president. Now, for example, in the states, the Obama administration, look at the side of the screen there. Republican lawmakers, they need to remember that all those men and women left behind during Obama's 8 disastrous years, it's time to get back and focus on them. Get people back to work. That means get people out of poverty, off of government assistance and food stamps. And another important thing is, well, the president already accomplished this, keeping the promise to appoint an originalist to the Supreme Court, Neil Gorsuch. That's going to be a big help. A massive victory for the president and another kept promise. And by the way, the next most important item agenda, we better move towards energy independence. It will create millions of high-paying jobs for Americans. It'll lower energy prices, the lifeblood of our economy. It will be great for national security. We're not relying on countries who hate our guts. Also, the president, Republicans, they've got to build this border wall. It was a key promise of the president. I'd like to see at least 300 miles built and completed by November 2018. Also, the president, he's an absolute genius. He's putting solar panels on the border wall. So much for that talking point that Republicans want dirty air and dirty water, and they only care about, dirty energy. If Republicans can accomplish those 5 items, then they can focus solely on tax reform. 15% corporate tax, middle-class tax cut, repatriation, trillions of dollars from multinational corporations at a low rate so we can build factories and manufacturing centers. If Republicans can pass a strong tax plan, a reform plan, then we're going to see economic growth, economic explosion. And by the way, like what happened during the Reagan administration, like what happened when we balanced the budget when Newt Gingrich was Speaker. If this gets done, it'll drown out all of the noise coming from the Destroy Trump media, the conspiracy theorists, and even the deep state that are leaking selectively on the president every day. And by the way, probably end all that insane talk about impeachment. And by the way, it will also benefit the weak, timid Republicans in the House and Senate. They need to show some backbone.